Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm actually recording during trading hours, trying to change things up, make it a little bit different. Let me know what you think. We're going to talk about why Target may never recover, but first we're going to talk about my portfolio. As you can see, my portfolio is now worth $58.81 approximately. That represents a new all-time high. I invested another $150 last week. My total investment in the portfolio is now $54.50. With that $150 investment, I purchased 0.0052 Bitcoin, total cost of $49.99. The price there was $95.53, and my new position is 0.1433 Bitcoin, or 14.33% of a Bitcoin. Also, I purchased another share of JNK, which of course is my bond ETF. I now have 2 shares of that. The price of that share was $101.57. Very happy about that. But let's see how my portfolios performed for the week. So on the day, we can see up, despite this drop off here before hours close, up $380 on the week, almost 7%, up 14% on the month. For 3 months, up 6%. Over the last year, now up 8.5%. At all time, we can see them up $455 or 8.35%. Very, very excited about this. The drop off was terribly concerning. I was down, we'll see, over $1,000 at one point, down about $1,100. And now I'm back up to about $455 in gains. I am so grateful. I want to remind you now, if you like this video, make sure to like the video itself, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you want to see next. But now we'll talk about why I think Target might be in for a long year. Of course, this channel is not politically related in any way, but I think it is important to understand what's going on right now, and I think that Target could struggle for a couple of reasons. Of course, these protests that have been going on and the rioting and looting of these Targets is going to be a huge deal. So here we can see from the New York Times, Target temporarily closing or shortening hours at 200 stores. Company said it acted to ensure employee safety. A store in Minneapolis where Target's based was badly damaged and looted last week. So here it says Target is temporarily closing or shortening the hours of about 200 stores in the United States as protests and looting spread across the country. The Target store on Lake Street in Minneapolis, that's the store nearest to where Mr. Floyd perished, was engulfed by unrest, badly damaged, and looted last week. Images of the battered store have been featured prominently in news coverage of the unrest where Target has its headquarters. And here you can see this is the damage we're talking about. In a statement on its website Saturday night, Target said, "We're heartbroken by the death of George Floyd and the pain it's causing communities across the country. At this time, we've made the decision to close a number of our stores." How many? Initially, they listed over 170 stores, 70 in Minnesota and 104 in other states. Now we can see that count is over 200 stores. They said that total was a mix of temporary closings and shortened hours at others, but they did not supply a breakdown of which. The CEO said the number was changing daily. As of last Sunday, the website had changed, dropping its detailed listing closings and no longer suggesting that all stores listed were closed. Target has 1,900 stores in the U.S. The decisions to temporarily shutter or shorten hours at roughly 200 locations were being made out of an abundance of caution. The problem here, as we see down here, is that Target is continuing to pay a $2 per hour COVID-19 premium for their workers. They're going to pay the workers from these stores for 2 weeks, which is good to hear. But if you're a shareholder, this has to be extremely concerning that up to 10% of stores are going to be closed for an undisclosed amount of time. And then, of course, those employees are being paid a COVID-19 premium and then are being paid, but the stores are not being able to bring in any money. It says 6 Target stores across the country have been closed because of damage. Nearly all of them should be ready to reopen soon, needing modest repairs. The exception is Lake Street store in Minneapolis, which Target hopes to reopen by the end of the year. Now let's take a look at Target's stock and see what's happened. Interestingly enough, on the day it is up. If we zoom out to the week, we can see that actually very little has happened. Target stock is up 1%, but I think their next earnings call should reflect this, or even 2 earnings calls from now. I just have a hard time believing that 10% of these stores being closed for a week or longer than that, as well as the damage done to these stores, is not going to have an effect. So we can see it still has a 61% buy rating on Robinhood. Their next earnings will be available on August 19th. So of course that is fairly far out, but I'm going to continue to watch this. So let me know what you think about the situation. And now back to my portfolio. We're going to talk about my largest holding right now, SPHD, or PowerShares S&P 500 High Dividend Low Volatility ETF. As I mentioned, this is the largest holding in my portfolio. I'm now down $30 all time on this one. Not super concerned. The yearly dividend that I'm receiving from this now is approximately $30. I wish Robinhood had a little bit better way of showing that because I'm really not down $30 on that. That being said, I'm up to 17 shares. Average cost is around $38.36. Makes up about 11% of my portfolio. So on the week, up 10%, which is awesome. On the month, up 16%. Over the last year, still down 11%. Now, the reason I skipped over 3 months is that if we look out, we can see it's sort of that large drop off, and then it's flattened out, which is pretty indicative of the market as a whole. So over the past 5 years, it's only up 11%, but of course, still recovering from that very large drop off. Has not recovered as well as some other stocks, but I would say that I'm more positive on SPHD than I was, say, a week or 2 weeks ago. Next up is Pfizer, because they had some really interesting news this week. They've pledged $50 billion for small companies, for small biotech companies. So here we can see, $500 million, but they're investing $500 million in public drug developers. Now, this means that Pfizer should stand to benefit if some of these other companies have large breakthroughs. And of course, with everything going on, I think it's important news. I am down $19 on this all time, but I think that news could be very beneficial. So we can see on the month, still have not performed well, down 8%. Over the last 3 months, they are up 4%, which is good to see. And the interesting thing is that since that bottom out at about $28, they're up about $8 per share. So that would have been a good time to invest. But of course, with all other stocks, we've seen that. So now on the year, down 16%, which is not good, and only up now about 3.5% over the past 5 years. I do like this one because of the decent dividend. Let me know what you think about Pfizer. Next up, we have actually my best performing stock in the portfolio. As we can see, it is down about 3% on the day, but I'm still up 92% on Penn National Gaming or Barstool Sports. Total return is $86. So I'm up to 5 shares here. I will continue to run this up and try to attain as many shares as I can before the end of the year. My average cost is now $18.81, which of course is wonderful to see. And of course, that average cost will increase as I buy more shares. So on the week, we can see up 11%. Over the past month, up 135%. 3 months, up 60%. Over the past year, up 91%. And it looks goofy when we zoom out to 5 years. Of course, it bottomed out here. This says 789, but if we go to the 3-month marker, it was around 450, I believe, 426. And the reason that we're seeing these large spikes and then falling very sharply and then rising again is, of course, the acquisition of Barstool Sports caused that initial surge. Then casinos closing due to COVID-19 really hurt Penn National Gaming. And of course, with casinos opening back up now, people are very, very excited to go gamble simply because they couldn't. This is going to help Penn National Gaming, and I think this is probably one of my better stock picks. As I mentioned here, 77% buy rating. If we get on to earnings, we can see Q1 was not very good. And of course, we're projecting Q2 to be horrendous. But I think that most people understand that's going to be the case, and it shouldn't hurt the price too bad when that comes out. And my last stock pick for today is Verit. Of course, this is one of my REIT holdings, pays a consistent dividend, meaning it's not going to change regardless of stock price. Problem here is that Verit was down very low. Of course, the upside there being that the lower the stock price is, the higher the dividend yield is. So I'm still down $36 or 20% here, up almost 5.5% on the day. But if we zoom out to the week, we can see up 24%, and over the past month, up 30%. This is because they got hit so hard when things went south. So over the past 3 months, they are down 23%. Over the past year, down 23%, and over the past 5 years, still down 20%. So we can see here, peaked at the end of February at around $10. I was thinking everything was going well. Of course, everything went south from there. But of course, they are recovering. I think the real estate market could take longer to recover than other industries, specifically because real estate has been so inflated and overvalued over the past sort of 4 or 5 years. But I like the dividend here. I like the consistency that a REIT gives me instead of investing in a single stock. You're investing in a series of real estate projects, so that's always good to see. But let me know what you think about Verit. Last but certainly not least is my largest holding overall, which is Bitcoin. My equity is now around $1,400. Average cost is just over $9,100. As I mentioned earlier, the quantity is 0.1433 Bitcoin, makes up about 24% of the portfolio. Total return is now up $90, which of course I like to see, but I always say holding this one for the long run. So over the last week, we're up 3%, over the past month up 9%, over the past 3 months up 11%, over the past year up 27%, and over 5 years up 4,300%. The reason that I'd like to talk about this every week, of course, it's my largest holding. I think this has the largest chance to make a ton of money. I think it's very interesting. If not, just let me know and I can stop talking about it as much. But I did think Bitcoin was pretty interesting this week. As we can see, they kept getting near sort of this $10,000 mark and even crossed it for a little bit, but then this immediate drop off. So on the week is still up 3%, but Bitcoin has struggled to do anything past that $10,000 mark. So even over the past month, we can see it would cross this $10,000 mark for just a few hours and then sort of die off. That being said, it's still moving upwards, and I think this is a long game. I'm looking at the peak being probably next December of 2021. Thanks for watching the video. That's all I've got for this week. My next video is coming. Just wait for it, and I'll be back with that video next week. Thanks.